To Weber, all knowledge of the social world was in the last resort irretrievably one-sided. Don't be confused here. When Weber emphasized the one-sidedness, that's not the same as Weber sided with the partialness. He just praised the one-sidedness. One-sidedness is the human condition. So you cannot overcome the one-sidedness. No, he did not say that. In order to overcome one-sidedness, we should recognize, we should understand the one-sidedness of our own position, one-sidedness of our own approaches, the one-sidedness of our own explanation. All through his life, Weber never, just boasted himself. I know the truth, the social norm, social, law of this world. I found the driving forces of history. I found who is the motor, the agency of this world, who transformed this world. Weber never said that kind of things. He never argued. He find some kind of social law, social dynamics that can explain just everything. He never said that. He saw the world as an infinite flux of events, all equally meaningful or meaningless. It's just it's very hard to understand the essence of Weber's approaches. Weber saw the world, the social world, as an infinite flux of events, or events equally meaningful or meaningless. In that chaos, meaning is created by a one-sided accentuation of the point of view of particular actors, a selection and patterning which imposes itself on the chaos. Both the absolute infinitude of the flux of events and the one-sidedness of social knowledge as an imputation of meaning within the flux were for Weber inescapable properties of the human predicament. Quote, as soon as we attempt to reflect about the way in which life confronts us in immediate concrete situations, it presents an infinite multiplicity of successively and coexistently emerging and disappearing events, both within and outside ourselves. Unquote. How complex. How hard it is to understand Weber's approach. When you compare Marx and Durkheim's approaches, in some sense they are very simple and very systematic. But when you read Weber's books, it's very hard to understand what he is saying. And since, in the face of that multiplicity, the social scientist enjoys nothing in the way of a special, privileged status, since the sociologist can no more stand outside the flux of history than any other human being. Social science can never hope to grasp the whole truth about society. There can be no absolutely objective scientific analysis of social phenomena, independent of special and one-sided viewpoint. Let me explain this. It's very key point. Just remember, social structure, meaning is mediated, intervening variable, and social action. What Weber is talking in here is a so-called double hermeneutics. According to Weber, this life world, there are so many events. Events. How could you understand what happens out there? What should you do? How could you determine your own life? Let me tell you. From Weber's point of view, this is life world. There are lay people out here. What is the Weber's position? Does he say when the social scientists, sociologists, they watch, observe what the lay people are doing? Did Weber say when the social scientists, sociologists watch what the lay people are doing, just watching, observing the behavior of the lay people, the ordinary people, did Weber say he can find some social laws, social structure that push, that cause that kind of social actions or social change? Did he say that? Weber say that? Definitely no. From Weber's point of view, the sociologists or the social scientists are no better position than the lay people, because social scientists are members of that society. He do not have any privileged position to watch over, to just observe what's happening in this society. Actually, Durkheim and Marx, they gave some privileged position to social scientists, sociologists, when they observe objectively, and they can find some social law, or they can find some social structure. That's the mindset of Marx and Durkheim. But Weber, he just rejects that kind of assumptions. Social scientists, the sociologists are no better position than the ordinary people. He, the social scientist, sociologist, or she, is in the same position. There are lots of events, the flux of events, happening and unhappening. So the question is, how could you just tackle, how could you catch some event, some problems? This event, this problem is much more important than other events or other problems. How could you say that? Let me tell you. After this class, what are you going to do? Just coming back home, or have some meeting with your own old friend, or just go to the library to read the textbook, or join some demonstration out there, downtown Seoul, or just to have some telephone call, long distance call to the student, to your own friend studying in the US or in some England or some other parts of this globe. What are you going to do? Who could decide to do something for you? Under what kind of criteria? What kind of position? Tell me. I'm asking you. After this class, what are you going to do? Under what kind of a value orientation? Or what should you do? What is Weber's position here? What is his answer? It is your parents who support you. So if you have time, you should come to the library to read through the textbook. That could be one answer. You should pay attention to the needs of your parents because they pay for your study. See? They buy your time. They invest their money to support your study, right? You have no choice but to focus on study, right? You can say just like that. Or you can just deny that, reject. I studied really hard all through the midterm weeks. Now it's time for me to have some relax and refresh myself. I want to telephone call to my dearest friend. You can choose your own value. I'm asking you, which behavior, which social action is really better than the other option? From what kind of value orientation can you judge studying in the library is better than calling up your own friend? I'm asking you, just, this is the easiest, this is the essence of Weberian approaches. How could you legitimize your position? Why don't you go to the library and just read your textbooks? What lead you? What caused you to do otherwise? Why do you just waste your time? Just have telephone calls or to have some chattings with your own friend. Just meaningless, just chatting. From Weber's point of view, what should you do? How could you legitimize your own choice? What's Weber's answer? In order to understand the Weberian approaches, you should understand. From Marx's and Durkheim's point of view, there is something important in our society, say class structure or moral structure. But Weber's approach is very unique in the sense he put his emphasis on the subjective meaning. Subjective meaning. Subjective meaning is not, you cannot observe, you cannot watch, you cannot approach subjective meaning by observation alone. Most of the social scientists, they put their emphasis on their observation. But Weber, he tried to understand the subjective meaning. I'm asking you, my question is very simple. After the class, what are you going to do? There are so many other different plans in your side. And I ask each and every one of you, the student, what are you going to do? And I want to have dinner. What are you going to do after dinner? I want to study. I want to go watching movie. I want to meet my friend. I want to serve my grandma, or something like that. But how can you make some decision or judgment? Which social action, what kind of movement, what kind of social behavior is better than that? How could you make some decisions? It is not among yourselves. It is just inside you. There are so many different options. I'm asking you, how could you make your own decision? Upon what kind of value judgment? I'm asking you. Your grandma is in hospital. Have some dementia or something like that. She is very good to me when I was just a boy or girl. She took care of me. I have to, serve him in hospital. That's one option. I'm a student. I have to go to the library to study. Second option. I have my old friend came back from the studying abroad. I have to meet him or her. The third option. There are some the movies just on the screen. I really like that. The director. I want to go to movie theater. Among these four options, I'm asking you, what are you going to do? What's the criteria upon which you make up your mind? And tell me, which value judgment is better than the other ones, the rest of the options? Anyone can tell me? If you are your parents, or I'm the very rigid lecturer, I ask you, you are a student. Although I know you really love your grandma, but your grandma is grandma. Everyone has his or her days destined, numbers given. Nobody can change that. So you should devote yourself for your own study. That's the best option. I can tell that as a lecturer. But as a family member, your mother, your parent, your father, or your elder sister, ask you, the days are not long. It's just today or tomorrow or the day of tomorrow. Times are not left much, so you should present yourself in the hospital. Time is limited. And you really like that director, that movie. You really wait for that movie for not days or weeks but years. When you first hear that director is on the process of making the movie, you really got excited. It was open on the screen today, this evening. Why not? This is the perfect time. I am very enthusiastic. I'm the one of the follower of the director. As a member of his fan club, I really want to be in that place. So I'm asking you, how could you decide, make up your mind among the different options? That's exactly that point Weber talked about, the one-sidedness. If you choose one position, if you're on the hospital, on the library, or on the movie theater, or on the phone, you should make up your mind. You cannot do this and that at the same time. You should make up your mind. That's one-sidedness of your own life, social situation. So, does that mean, if you choose, you just stay in the library? That means the studying is better than any other options? You don't like your director? Your enthusiasm, you're not that loyal to him anymore? the one-sidedness and the last sentence is page 77. We can only see the world at all, Weber argued, by seeing a part of it. You cannot see the whole of this world. You cannot take all the position. You cannot have all the social actions you want, you really cherish at the same time. Does that mean, we are one-sided? We have to choose. That means we cannot understand the whole world. You cannot have any value judgment. Actually, you do. We can proceed towards social knowledge, page 78, only on the basis of some culturally shaped sense of significance. Conversely, the demand that the historian or sociologist should do work that is relevant, meaningful, and concerned with important rather than trivial matters is no more than a demand for an explanation in terms of relationships that are significant for us. Relevant. Relevant or relevance is one of the key words in Weber. Relevant. You should give relevant answers, relevant explanations. Your grandma is on the deathbed. It's just the time is just 1 or 2 hours. You got phone call, but I'm a student. I have to devote myself in studying. I should stay in the libraries. I'm a student. Is that a relevant action to take? Relevance. Relevant. You should behave relevantly. Your parents got, bankrupt. What is your relevant action? I should quit studying. I should earn money to make my family wealthy alone again. Do I have to quit? Do I have to stop studying and just do my own business? Is that relevant action? Relevant. Relevance. It's really the key word. Works of social sciences are judged significant because they contribute to a larger configuration of meaning in which the social scientist and the audience for social science both exist. Turned around again, what we select for study is not something objectively given and observed by us in a presuppositionless way. Our objects of study are selected and constructed out of the infinity of phenomena by being first defined as meaningful within our sense of cultural significance. Meaningful. To attend your grandma's deathbed is meaningful, relevant for you than other options. To attend the movie theater, to watch the movie, it's relevant for you. As you want to become a movie director someday, you should invest your time and energy in preparing yourself for the future. From that value judgment, from that context, attending, going to the movie theater is relevant. Nobody can give you meanings except for you. You yourself should choose the values. Let me repeat. Turned around again. What we select for study is not something objectively given and observed by us in a, quote, presuppositionless, unquote, way. I emphasize again and again. You cannot be nowhere. You should be somewhere. That's from where you observe, you approach the social world. You cannot deny. You are positioned. You are situated. You have your own position in our society. You cannot deny that. You are either, the sons or the daughters of wealthy people or poor people or from middle class. You have your own social position, class background. Whether you like it or not, you belong to some social class. That's for sure. Our objects of study are selected and constructed out of the infinity of phenomena by being first defined as meaningful within our sense of cultural significance. We study what is significant for us, and we explain the problems we study in terms of their significance for us. Significance, not for them, but for us. For example, in the US, when you go to the US to study, you just confront, many studies on racism. Why is it that? In the US, there are a mixture of many races, many different peoples. So most of their social problem arises from that racial confrontation. So they pour their money and energy in studying the race problems. So in the US, you become the expert in racism. When you come back home, come to Korea again, can you focus on race? What kind of race in Korea? In Korea, we have national problem, national reunification. See? National reunification is relevant in Korea. Race problem is relevant in the US. So in the US, you should study racism, race relations, race formations, race problems. But in Korea, national problems, national reunification, class problems, class conflict, or regional, local confrontation. That's relevant for us. For Weber, page 78, the second paragraph. The recognition of this cultural one-sidedness was nevertheless a crucial first step toward sociological knowledge. Weber never, ever denies the cultural one-sidedness. He never say we should overcome one-sidedness. No, he did not say that. We should acknowledge, recognize one-sidedness. The only way to overcome or at least minimize the one-sidedness of one's vision of the social world is to begin by being self-conscious about the fact that one's vision is one-sided. Your vision is one-sided. The difference between social science and naive observation. The difference between social science and naive observation does not lie in the social scientists' special mastery of laws or general theories about social development or social organization, but on the contrary, in the understanding of the partial and imaginative nature of such ideas. You know, can you imagine? Do you understand? The position taken by Weber is different from Marx's position. Marx, in some day in his life, he assumed, he found the law, social law of this world, the so-called capitalist development or the capital accumulation, exploitation, and social revolution. He put himself in the position. He can understand the social structure and social dynamics, social laws of this world. So my knowledge is better than the lay people's, the ordinary people's point of view. That's Marx's position. But Weber, he never assumed that, never take that position. The social scientist, just one of them. In a powerful image, Weber suggests that the essence of social science, methodologically, is the creation of utopias. That's the ideal type. Utopias. What one does is to reconstruct and reorganize reality imaginatively. One creates, quote, ideas of reality. Weber is a neo-Kantian. He never confuses his ideas with reality. Don't confuse ideas with reality. Ideas are ideas. Reality is reality. Don't confuse. Conceptual patterns which, quote, bring together certain relationships and events of historical life into a complex, which is conceived of as an internally consistent pattern, unquote. Through, quote, the analytical accentuation of certain elements of reality, unquote, the social scientist creates models of the world in which the necessary or possible relationships between different factors are specified with a high degree of logical clarity and precision. And by thus carrying one-sidedness to an extreme, the social scientist acquires a tool with which reality can be very fruitfully examined. Tool. The sociological theory and the concept are just tools. Don't confuse the concept with reality. Just as the moralist can judge the actual world by comparing it to a utopia, so the social scientist can apprehend the actual world by relating it to an ideal type, a unified analytical construct, ideal type. If you understand the concept, the ideal type in Weber's sociology, you know more than half of his theory, his thought. I can bet you, I can tell you. Ideal type. Don't confuse ideal type with typical or ideal. It's a big difference between ideal, typical, and typical or ideal. The line just under the quote, the paragraphs quoted. Social scientist thus turns common sense knowledge into an instrument for the creation of its own quite different kind of knowledge. The ideal type so exaggerates the one-sidedness of common sense that it becomes impossible, or at least it ought to become possible, become impossible, to equate one's ideas with reality. Quote, in its conceptual purity, this mental construct cannot be found empirically anywhere in reality. It really confuses you. Ideal types, according to Weber, you cannot find any empirical evidences in reality. Why did he say that? You can make ideal types of holy men or the great political leaders, but also you can make ideal type of prostitute or the ugly men, evil guys. Either way, that's possible. Ideal type has nothing to do with ideal. It's not typical in that statistical senses. Ideal type is mental construct. Mental construct. If you don't have any questions, I'll ask you some questions. So, in Weber's approaches, Weber's methodologies, what is the position of value in Weberian sociology? Did Weber ignore value at all? Or he highly cherishes value? What is the status of value in Weberian sociology compared to Marxist and Durkheimian? What is the position of value in Weberian sociology? It's so funny. In the English-speaking world, Weber was understood as he just ignores the value. Weber is the sociologist of value neutrality. In the U.S., he was known for, unlike Marxists, they are so value embedded, value driven. They put their emphasis on their own value, their own ideology, to transform their society. They actually run the risk of some social revolution and some kind of proletariat dictatorship, some bloody, the purge or something like that. So in that sense, Marxist sociology is value-oriented. When you compare the Weberian sociologies, it seems it just lacks any value judgment or value orientation. So Weber was praised for his argument about value neutrality. But when you read the Weberian sociology in this textbook, Weber puts his emphasis on the value. You should choose your own value in determining your own social action. You should put your own meaning. Meaning is not imputed to you from outside or from above. You should choose among conflicting values. Who can make any decision for you? You should do this. You should do that. If you identify yourself in the member of your own family, just big family, or you think of yourself just individual pursuing your own life goal, if you think of yourself just a member of some of your own companies, your friends, according to that value judgment, value orientation, value commitment, your meaning you attribute to your own action is different. Nobody can choose meaning for you. That's the point. From Weberian point of view, the meaning is you yourself have to choose. You should choose your own meaning. After the collapse of the absolute God, just one God in this world, after the disenchantment after the Enlightenment, nobody can impose you just one value, the supreme value, the most important value upon you. If somebody could do that, you should follow that lead. There's no option. But after the collapse of the absolute God, you should choose your own God. Because there is no prevailing, just one God dominating everything. You should choose. That's the fate of the modern man, modern human being. You cannot defend your position. My mother said this. My lecturer asked me to do this. My grandma asked me to do this. Your grandma is not the God, the only God. Your lecturer, your professor is not the God. Your husband or your father is not the God. Who cannot give you that meaning, impose the value upon you. You should choose your own meaning, your subjective meaning. That's the fate. So, in this Bavarian social world, it's so complex. It's so, difficult to choose, to make your own decision. So, I'm not joking, in this late modern or postmodern world, the only God we are worshipping, we pay our attention, we pay our tribute to it, money. The only God we adore. Why? We don't know what to do. We are just at a loss what to do. Nobody knows his or her own value orientation. So each and everyone is somewhat, risky, very vulnerable to his or her own choosing, own decision. So to earn money means they don't try to make any decision, but only try to accumulate money to raise that bar, that opportunities to choose, to make decision. For example, if you have money, say just a couple of dollars, what is your choice? Have just a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or a cup of juice. That's the only choice. But if you have some $100 in your pocket, one movie and Coke and chips, or sandwich, Coke and French fries or something. If you have $1 million in your pocket, the choices you can make is somewhat different. Much more, much greater than ever. So you cannot make up your mind. You cannot make up your mind to what kind of value you should pursue. So you just delay the decision till the end. All you want to do is just accumulate money. Someday you can just exchange it from other values or other objects, other stuffs. But I can tell you, that moment will not arrive. The more you have, the more choices you have, the more difficult for you to make any decision. So, what should I do? What should you do? Weber give you some answer here. Do what you think. is meaningful to you. Not meaningful for them. Meaningful for the powerful people upon you. Meaningful behavior, meaningful social action for you. Weber is a liberal. His political orientation is liberal. But you know, how hard is to become a liberal? You know, to become a liberal, you should choose your own values, your own social action. You should choose each and every minute, every second, you should choose. You are brave enough to choose, make decisions. That's the fate of modern man, modern human being. In this world, there are so many religions out there. If you're born in some little town, you know, there are only cathedral out there, you have no choice but to attend the cathedral or don't. That's the only option. Attend the cathedral or not. If you're born in some remote villages and only the Buddhist temple is out there, your option is to attend the temple or not. But in this big city, metropolitan Seoul, there are churches, cathedrals, Buddhist temple, and even synagogues for the Jews. And Islam, what they say, that what is the church for the Islam? Mosque. There are so many different places you worship your own God. What is your choice? It's getting difficult than ever. That's the content of your liberty. You know, to become a liberal people, free man, you should make up your mind each and every minute. I'm asking you, are you brave enough to enjoy your freedom? Weber is asking you. The meaning of social action is upon you. You should choose among so many different values. You should fill your own world with meaning, chosen by you, not given to you by others. Meaning is your own choice. You should lead a meaningful life. In order to lead a meaningful life, you should choose. Make up your mind. That's what Weber is talking about. That's why he pay attention, not the social structure, but social action and the meaning behind that action. Meaning. That's the missing link in both Marxist and Durkheimian approaches. Meaning. Whose meaning? The monarch's meaning, the king's meaning, the bishop's meaning, the pope's meaning, the parent's meaning, the professor's meaning, your grandma's meaning, your meaning. Get it? Why you should pay attention to the meaning. If I deliver a good lecture, or if you hear, if you learn, really, path-breaking, social thought from this class, after you are out of this class, there begins the agony of choosing something. You cannot just say, "Oh, I was destined to do this. I was, compelled to do this. My social structure, my family urges me to do this." You cannot say that. You always make your own decision. You choosing yourself. So you should put your own meaning every step of your life. Why you are here? Why you are going there? Why you did not do there? You should give your own meaning. So Weber really wanted to understand the meaning of the social actors. Why people behave just like that? What is the meaning behind that social action? That's the point Weber pursues all through his life. Meaning. Not social structure. Class structure. Subjective meaning, the subjective means his or her own meaning. I think that's the point of your question. How could we understand the subjective meaning of other people? The subjective means it's up to him or her. How could we decipher? How could we understand subjective meaning? I will give that answer next week because it takes actually hours. Subjective is not subjective. It's actually intersubjective. Everybody, for example, in our language, nobody has utters the private language. We share the meaning. Although you say, how could we understand the subjective meaning? I understand when you say subjective meaning. You do, raise your questions in this context. So I can understand the objective meaning of your subjective meaning. When you say, I'm not having some, language game here. I'm talking about, when you ask me, how could we understand the subjective meaning? I can understand your questions because subjective is subjective. It's up to each and everyone. But when you say something subjective, I can understand. If I'm the president of this university and ask me to cover all the classes, I can do that. I can give lectures about what is language. How could we communicate each other? How could we become an adult? How could we make some relationships? What is happiness? Why we make war? Or how could we, communicate and exchange our belongings? I can have some, bottom-up approaches, not just kind of, ideal approaches. Let me tell you, there are some technical problems, difficulties today too. So I want to tell you about the campus tsunami. A couple of days ago in New York Times, there are columns about campus tsunami. It's about in the U.S. universities, the top-ranking universities, Harvard University, MIT, Yale, UPenn, and Princeton, and many universities, they join that internet lectures. So that columnist called it the campus tsunami. I wanted to ask to think over that tsunami, not only in Korea but also in China and Japan, in Asian region in general. Actually, we can give lectures in English. Why not? Why don't we have to listen, watch out that lectures given by the American professors, the most prominent universities in this world? Maybe we can have some organizational, institutional blocks. It's okay, you can attend that class in internet class, but we cannot give you grade. So what's the use of attending the class? We can punish you in doing that. But in someday, you give your money, and you can have grade from Harvard University or Nanjing University or Beijing University or Tokyo University. And I think the time is up. Within a couple of years, you can do that. You can attend global, classes. I'll talk about that in next week. See you next week.